Welcome to Healed to Heal, the podcast that champions radical faith, confronts unbelief, and amplifies a single truth. Jesus still heals. He always has. He never stopped. So whether you're still lying on the mat or carrying someone else to Jesus, this is for you. Hi, friends, and welcome back to the Heal to Heal podcast. This is where we dive deep into the stories of people who have walked through fire and come out carrying healing, not just for themselves, but for others. Today's guest is incredible. You're going to love this woman, but her life turned upside down in a single moment. And yet somehow what followed was not just recovery, but radical transformation. Shannon Michelle is a speaker, an author, and the voice behind Step Into Your Miracle, which is a book, but I feel like it's also a movement. Before any of that, she was a woman waking up from a coma after a devastating motorcycle accident with limited memory of her life or no memory. She's going to tell us about that. No connection to the past and wondering, how do I move forward? As she began the long road to healing, life threw her another unthinkable challenge, a breast cancer diagnosis. But instead of giving up, Shannon pressed in. What she discovered wasn't just how to survive, but how to rebuild, how to find herself again, how to walk in wholeness, and how to live with intention, peace, and purpose, even when the old map was not making sense, when it didn't work. Her story is one of grit, grace, and a deep surrender that unlocked real healing, mind, body, and spirit. And it aligns so powerfully with our mission on this podcast that when you receive healing, you're called to carry that healing into the world. Shannon, I'm so thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful. Hearing you speak about me is like, I love it. And I love hearing about it because I sometimes forget certain elements of my life now because my short-term memory limitations, which, I need to be reminded. We all need to be reminded who we are sometimes. And hearing you speak out about me, like it empowers me. Like I love hearing and reminding me, oh yeah, that's the journey I've been on.
Well, there's no question. It is truly extraordinary. And it's one of the reasons I'm so thrilled to have you on the show, because people need to know that no matter what they've been through, it's possible. And especially when it happens in a dramatic way. I mean, yours is a dramatic way. So guys, listen up, pull up a chair. Before we get to the place where there was this horrific accident, which was definitely a pivotal point, obviously, could you give us just a little picture of what your life was like before that? I know you were you did decorating and that kind of thing as well, right?
Yes, I was a very known and very, very successful interior designer here in Los Angeles. I worked with my clients for years and years and years. And I started my business when I was like 22 in a little antique shop. And then it transformed into this amazing furniture stores and design firm and, all kinds of grandness, honestly, considering what I came from and what I developed for myself. And that was previous to my accident. And so I was in a good place as far as I felt like I was helping people see the world differently in a way. And I did that with how they could enjoy their lives with their homes. Like, how can we make this the perfect fit for you? That was always my goal with my design. So that's what I used to do. Yeah.
Well,
and I was a mom too. So
your background, and I know I've heard you talk some in a really inspiring way about your spiritual journey, but you didn't grow up in that particular environment. Tell us a little bit about that.
No, I grew up, my mother, atheist, not a believer in anything, which never really made sense to me, but it was how our environment was when we were children. And we were, it was a very chaotic, divorced family, parents not finding their way, both alcoholics. They didn't have any beliefs, and even in themselves, honestly. And so I was taught that, you'll find your way. And that literally being brought up in a way that you'll find your way was a little confusing, obviously, like no guidance in how to do that. That's how I was as a child. And as a young teen, it was messy.
Yeah.
It was
Well, it sounds like to me, and we'll loop back to this, that, God was really kind of reaching you through what you went, not that he sent you to this thing, but that he was able to reach you in a more expanded way, I guess, from some of the things I've heard you talk about. So can you take us to the accident? Obviously, and I don't think you remember much of it, right? But at some
I
point your memory kicks back in.
really, so thankfully, I don't remember the physical accident in my brain. I only know what I've been told about my accident because my brain trauma was so severe. I mean, it was, they had to keep me in a coma for a few months. Like it was, they didn't know what they were getting on the back end of my brain trauma. And um, so basically I was in a very severe body and brain accident because I was on a motorcycle on Pacific Coast Highway and somebody illegally did a U-turn and threw me, from what I've been told, have threw me up in the air 30 or 40 feet, crashed back down head first. And like, I don't ever want to remember that. Like,
Yeah.
that's something that they can take away and keep away certain parts of me. I don't want to know. I don't want to remember those moments. But I was already blessed at that moment. Like I was on the highway where there was an EMT and his wife on the beach, like just having time on. Yeah, he ran up and did everything that he could do. He also made sure that when the fire people were there, they're like, you have to get her in a helicopter. She will die if she does, if you go in an ambulance. Like he was like the next steps on pointing the right directions for me there. I also had a gentleman who was in a car that saw it happen. He pulled his car and turned it so more people couldn't roll over me. Like all of these moments of the beautiful saving graces that
Yeah.
honestly were a part of why I sit here today. And that's just the beginning because it was layers and layers upon miracles.
I don't think anybody could understand that unless they went through something like that, but especially the memory part. Like that's just insane in my mind. Like what was that like when you woke up and what was that like? Like I don't remember
It
this or
was,
that.
I can laugh about it now, but it was at the time it was happening, my memory was so deleted that I would wake up and I would look out the window and like kind of scream like, where am I? What happened? And like they would have like broken and like my wrists were broke. Like every part of my body had been broken and put back together. And so I woke up in pain and in kind of just unknowing what had happened or where I was over and over again was the beginning stages of my recovery in the hospital, in the nursing hospital. That was the first 3 months was 2 months in the hospitals and another month in the nursing hospital ish. And then once they allowed me to come home, and literally again my hips they had to replace, like put back together, like they wouldn't let me walk, you name it, everything had been taken away, my brain capacity and every part of my body was broken and either in pain or in needing to be rebuilt or reintroduced, as I call it. I was rebooted, like my brain had to be rebooted. And so I woke up and it took a long time
Yeah.
to see myself again, to not be in fear every day, because there was sadness, there was overwhelm and sorrow when I would wake up, and I had to find a way out of that as well, because I had to wake up and not worry about what I had lost or what I'd been through, but who I was in the moment. And that took a long time to say.
Unbelievable. And during that process, when you were starting to sort of rebuild, and I know that we end up with this other one-two punch that's coming, but how much like therapy were you able to interact in? Was that like a daily thing? And you have a daughter, right? So did your family engage in some of that?
Yeah, so I have a daughter. She had just started college. She was 19 when this all happened. So that was also horrific for her. And we're still in baby steps on how to honestly like find a new way to talk to each other and to communicate. And we do it. We're getting better and better at it. But I was like a child and she was my daughter and she had to mother me through stages of my recovery. So we've had to, things shifted, and then we were allowed to, like, now we're back in a place where things have shifted back. Like, yes, I'm the mother again. I'm sorry. So wait, go back to what was the question?
Well, I was just asking about aspects of your therapy and your and before we even started recording for our listeners,
Yeah.
she was telling me about listening to music, that her daughter was involved in having her listen to some music that was really helpful. Maybe tell us about that. That's powerful for spiritual connection.
Absolutely. So when they needed to keep me in a coma for a few months. So, and my daughter was coming, she was in college, but she like basically came down and sat next to me in the hospital for weeks until her dad said, "Your mom would not like this. You need to get back up to school. We don't know we don't know when she's waking up or how." So, but she would sit there for quite a few weeks, and she was told that by playing music, things that I was familiar with, it would help with the brain recovery because it was such a traumatic brain injury. So she would sit at the edge of the bed and she would play music that she knew I liked on her phone. And at one point, once they allowed me to come out of the coma, I responded to her. I couldn't even talk, but all of a sudden they were playing the music and I started singing the words to a song by Amos Lee. And they're like, "Oh my God, she's in there. She's in
Yeah.
there." And it was such an empowering moment for them to know that there was parts of me there because they were told she could look out a window the rest of her life. We don't know what we're getting back. We don't know if she'll walk. We don't know if she'll talk. We don't know if she'll know who you are. And so she had a big transition of not knowing what she was going to lose, and she wanted to just kind of do as much as she could in each way to like connect me back to myself, to my brain, to my spirit, to her, to every part of that. And she did.
To me, that speaks to so many things, obviously, and she's not unchanged after this. I mean, she's probably had a dramatic shift in her own life, and you could probably
She
speak
has.
to that. But I love that. I look at the spirit as being, the spirit's eternal, the spirit's outside of time and space. And we talked about sort of a little bit the left brain, right brain thing. So
Yeah,
what's so wonderful about that music? It was connecting with your spirit. So
it
this
was.
other part of you was shut down, but your spirit was not. And so it was able to hear that and engage with that. That's phenomenal. So
Yeah,
there was some healing happening, but then you got this crazy news about the cancer
yeah,
diagnosis. How far
yeah.
along did it happen, and what was that like?
That was about a year. I think it's a year and a half after my physical accident is when they had kept asking me because of my age, mammogram things you're supposed to do. And I was in the midst of still a lot of surgeries and recovery. I had wrist surgery, eye surgery that hadn't even been done even once I got home. And so I'm like, if we can put off that, that would be great. I don't want
Yeah.
to do a mammogram. And finally, my doctor's like, "No, you need to get a mammogram," thankfully. And so I went in and I went through that. And then my doctor called me and said, and you go through the next steps. And she called me and said, you have breast cancer. And I remember going, "What?" Like I started laughing. I was like, "Cancer?" I've been through enough already. Like I want to work on my brain. I want to work on my walking better and my balance. Like my brain was in the sense of like, I've got other things to fix.
Yeah.
And my spirit was like, you're not taking me yet.
Yeah.
And so I started laughing, and my daughter, I called her, she was in college, and I said, "Oh yeah, I've got to tell you these things because you need to know." And she said, "This isn't funny, Mom. We have
Yeah.
to take this serious." And I'm like, "Oh." She's like, "We have to not work on the brain and not the body. We have to work on the cancer now." And she
Yeah.
was the one that kind of talked me into that moment that was like, cancer first. And I was like, "Oh, you're right." Even though I can't take it serious when I heard it, I needed my daughter to say, "Okay, this is our next step. Our next step is only this, not the rest, not your eye surgeries, like not the other things that needed to still be done."
That's
So
fascinating to me, and it just makes me think of a question because I've heard you talk before about how, and maybe you can tell the listeners, you had
mhm,
experiences, whether it was, after your coma, where you were sort of mid-state, like you weren't in
was
the natural realm, you were kind of seeing in the spirit. And in my book, Heal to Heal, it's really fascinating because some people that went through these incredibly traumatic illnesses, and ultimately some of them, the natural world was just stripped away.
yeah.
In that place, they had, some of them had visions of angels, and so people think, oh, that's crazy. No,
I
really,
did.
I think what it really is that our natural mind is so dialed in, we're so focused on the scene, but when that is diminished, there's an opportunity for us to connect with something that's already there. So could you speak to that,
Absolutely.
like your experience there?
I would love to. I would love to because when I did wake from the coma stage, I kept asking for Bill, who was my father figure.
Hmm.
And I, when I awoke, I thought he was there, meaning in the hospital, like, because I didn't understand the difference between in body and accident. I couldn't remember any of it, but I just kept asking for Bill. And then somebody said, well, you know, he passed away. And I'm
Wow.
like, I don't remember that. He was with me though. And I kept thinking to myself, he was with me, and he was.
Yeah. I
And
believe it.
so he had just passed away. I think it was 6 or 8 months before my accident.
Wow.
And he was there with me. And the words you put around it is mid-state, because people understand that. But he was there with me, almost helping me pause from moving on and staying out of my body. And I know that he allowed me to just pause and, like, it's okay. It's a mess. I just remember, it's a mess. It's a mess. I understand. It's okay. And then he just allowed me to stay in a place where I could come back.
Yeah.
And I was surrounded by many angels. I had people talking to me. I mean, I didn't even want to come back because I loved everything that I was surrounded with and by. And it's not a visual. It's hard to explain visually, even though I can put words around it now. But it took me forever even to put words around it, because nothing that I experienced explained what I felt and what I was within. And that was, and I think that the only way that I can remember it so clearly is that I can remember it, and also that I have this connection to Bill being there, kind of pausing me and being the reason why I'm here today in
Yeah.
my body, alive in this, and in this
It seems like
crazy
there's
world.
so many things in what you just said that should really speak to all of us, because we have such a limited thinking, but the limit isn't really there. It's in our natural mind, it's in our analytical mind. And so for me, hearing you talk about that, of course, it aligns with a lot of the stories that we hear, reports of people that had what they called near death experiences, and they came back. It's the same thing, that a lot of times they didn't want to come back. They were surrounded by such love and such beauty. But even
Uh-huh.
more than that, just how do you come back from that and be anywhere the same? Like, even when I hear you say you were laughing about the breast cancer, it's not that we should laugh those things off necessarily in one sense, but in another sense, there is a laugh, at the days to come, and just be
Yeah.
like, it's going to be okay. Like, when we
Yes.
decide that, our perspective around it changes. And it seems like to me, hearing you, there was no way you could go back to who you were before.
No way, no way. And also, it just also took me a while to get comfortable with not trying to regain what I used to have. The person I
Wow.
used to be, it took a while to just like the new me,
Yeah.
because there were a lot of obvious physical and mental changes. But, again, with whatever happens to us within our human life, there's guidance, there's wisdom, there's something you're being told and you need to actually learn from within all of the trauma. And I had to come to a place where I understood that there was this balance of, even though all of this bad stuff has happened to you, you're a better person. You
Chills.
are, yeah. I know that
Everyone
I
talks
am.
about taking off the old self and putting
Yes.
on the new self. And that language, sometimes we've heard that so many times, we just don't even take it seriously. But
Yeah.
to me, it sounds like there was a reawakening, almost like this is your true self now. I mean, would
Yes.
you speak
Oh,
into
it's
that?
so authentic. It's just so honest and authentic, and the real me, which I also realized in the midst of all this, I had such a bad history that I would hide from it. And I wouldn't want people to know that the previous youngness and all of the stuff that happened to me as a child. And, like, that would make me look bad, I thought. And I didn't understand that the good, the bad, all of it's exactly who we are. And that's a beautiful thing. And to be broken is a good thing. Like, for us
Right.
to not be perfect, that is, if you can wake up each morning and not want to be perfect, but just be you,
Yeah.
that's the best you can be. And that's the most you have to give as well, because I've realized that as well. I have more to give. The more authentic and more truthful I am with myself, with my life, with my daughter, it's empowering, and it gives you strength.
I love that so much. I remember you making a comment that I loved because I believe this as well, that vulnerability is absolutely essential because, C.S. Lewis has this quote that, love and vulnerability go hand in hand. You
They
can
do.
try to shut that down, but when you do, you're shutting love down too, and you end up being closed off to these things. We have the wrong idea of that. And I love hearing you talk about being genuine because it's the truth that sets us free. It's not, the word of God sets us free, but the truth of who we are. Whenever we're behind those masks, it's
Yes.
exhausting. It's exhausting to keep that up, right? Who can keep that up?
Well,
But
and
what
it's,
if you don't?
you also can't expand and grow and be a better you if all you're doing is protecting and have walls up. And we put so many walls up to think that not being the true us will make us look better. And again, it's the step by steps, like be authentic to you first and
Yeah.
foremost. I remember that in some of my therapy because I was obviously, or not obviously, but I was so overwhelmed and so had so much depression about what I had come back into at the beginning stages.
Mm.
And I remember, and I'll never forget this, that one of my therapists, she said, Shannon, don't think about what has happened in the past. Don't worry about what you're going to get in the future. Just stay right here. Tell me what you want to do and talk about right now. Try to stay present. And that over and over again is the thing that I honor within myself is to just stay present. And I don't worry about what I will forget or what I might do different or what has changed, but just be here right now talking with you.
Yeah.
That's my goal. And this again is what we're doing. And this is beautiful and it's engaging and it's inspiring. And that's where we sit today. Right.
Incredibly powerful. And again, back to the heal to heal message. You took all this that you had learned, that you were continuing to learn, this powerful being in the present. But not only that, you can tell us about some of your meditation things that you have developed. Tell us about the patch thing. And then what brought about the book? So there's this wonderful book, Step Into Your Miracle. Tell us about
Yes.
that journey.
So with my brain delete and rebooting, my brain, I realized that the short-term memory was limited. So I would be excited to like have a good night's sleep and wake up and start over each day. And I remember one morning waking up and I woke up to what I would call screaming, finish your book. And
Hmm.
that's what it felt like to me. And I woke up and I called my best friend and I said, Jess, I finished your book. I know I'm learning to read again, but I can't finish a book, is what I said. And she said, Shannon, have you looked in your phone? I'm like, yeah, well, I use it for everything. I take every picture, every memory, blah, blah, blah. And she said, you should look at your notes because I think that there's something that you're supposed to share. And you've already written a book if you look in your phone. Or she didn't say it that way, but she was like, you need to look in your book because I think it's already there.
Yeah.
And so she guided me to look. I'm like, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow, wow. I said that. Huh. I spoke that into my phone. And I kept getting surprised at even myself. I was like, wow, I am a miracle because I don't even remember what I say or how I can share, but it's all in my phone. And I was so grateful that I had depended on my phone to remember who I was the reason why I started also to write this is because I want to remember my life. I want to remember these moments and how I was able to recover. And those were the things I wanted to share with others. Like, how can I let other people know that there's a way to wake up each morning, even if you're in pain or wherever you're at, and find your way to a cup of coffee, a beautiful view of the birds in my window, like whatever it is that I was within in my pain, I would find joy. I would try to find joy. And that was what the intention of the book began was for me to remember myself first and then me to share with others of how I was able to come through all of the chaos you just described earlier. Yeah.
That's so remarkable too, because I think that speaks to any of us that we go through our days and we don't really know how much we possibly have to share. But sometimes we could just look at what we've already put down, whether it's in a journal or note to friends or whatever. There's something there that if you ever
Always.
stop and take a look at it, it might
Yes.
really be able to impact somebody else. So that's powerful. So we have these like rigid ideas of how things have to look. Like it has to look like this. If I write a book, it has to be like this. Maybe not. There's so
No,
many other ways. And I
yeah.
love that you were willing to embrace that and take that on, especially while you're still healing. I mean, that is remarkable. And you do like you do speaking and stuff too, right? So it's not just the
Yes,
book.
I've started speaking, doing small speaking engagements. In fact, I have one tomorrow for a Christmas women's event, which I'm very excited about. And yes, and I came up with this whole, okay, so here's my book, which the part that I always don't want to forget to tell you or tell anybody is my daughter drew the cover for me.
What? That's
Yeah,
amazing. She's an artiste for sure.
really,
That's
really
awesome.
talented. But I also just so proud because she's been such like obviously a part of my life and my recovery. But the fact that she's a part of this book, she's in here a lot too. So I speak a lot about her and the ins and outs of all of it. So yeah, so that my daughter, and so I also in my recovery, I would have to um, write down things on a bulletin board, like for me to relearn and to remember everything. I had this big bulletin board that I would write everything down on, and then I got it down to like a book on the island where I'd write notes. And I just knew that I needed to remember certain things about how I could stay present, how I could find a place of peace within each day. And part of that, I made this little patchwork mini meditation kind of class. And I don't know if it's a class, but it's definitely a process. And I came up with words that matched my recovery, my experience, my life
Yeah.
as much as I love who I am today. And so so I have this thing where I have people put on my patch. And this is the part that is always so interesting. And maybe at some point we can do this together. Is when you cover one of your eyes, your perspective, your self perspective, your depth perception, but your how you can see and how you see yourself changes in a
Mm.
moment. And so we walk through this process where you accept the change and you kind of navigate that it can change by and again, I always tell people you can take it off at any point if it's uncomfortable, but something as simple as putting an eye patch on can have you change your perspective about yourself.
That is crazy powerful. I think that as much as it may look like a hardship with that particular thing, that's just like a superpower to me.
It
You know,
is.
we can shift our focus if we can shift our perspective, if we can get out of being stuck in this sort of left brain, analyze everything to death, and that thing has become so dominant, and just take a moment to see from a different perspective, a spiritual
Yes.
perspective that's not stuck in all this burnout, worn out, stressed out, future, past. Right now is okay. Like
Yeah.
that in itself is wonderful. Um,
Yeah.
just
It's
remarkable.
it's this new life that I'm living. And
Yeah.
I want again just keep sharing and helping others. Those are my biggest goals. How can I share and help others? And so these are my new ways. I'm sure there'll be more.
Yeah. Well, to me, it sounds truly extraordinary. We're getting a little bit close on time, so would
Okay.
love to take the last just couple minutes. And if you could, tell us where to find all your stuff and your websites, but also maybe speak to that person. Maybe they've gone through some kind of emotional, physical, spiritual crash of some kind of
Mhm,
hardship. Just
mhm.
speak to them right now and share your heart with them, and then tell us where we can find your wonderful book.
So um, I think the most important thing when you are feeling, you can put all kinds of words around it, but um, upset, sad, depressed, forgotten, there's all kinds of words. Anytime you feel misplaced, any of those things, if you can stay present in the moment that you're in and not worry about what you've been told or what you're going through, but just speak to yourself and get yourself on, whether it be, for me, it was getting on a walk or making myself a cup of tea, whatever it is that could bring me joy in that moment is, I think, more empowering than I think we realize. I think when we spend too much time trying to sort things out, it confuses us. And if we can just stay present, that's where we find our strength. That's where we can find ourselves again. And more like, again, the more you find yourself, the more you have to give. So self-care makes you even bigger and brighter than you could ever imagine. And sometimes that's just, again, that's a cup of tea and looking out a window. That's enough, you know?
Yeah. That's really well said.
Oh, and then you were asking, I have a website, stepintoyourmiracle.com. It's gorgeous. They created me this gorgeous website, stepintoyourmiracle.com. Ways to buy my book, see speaking engagements, see podcasts that I've been on a little bit. But again, mostly it's just to share with others. I'm hoping that people buy my book, get inspired by it, want to give it as a gift, whatever it is. That I think the more we share, the more we give, the more we can uplift. And that's a goal of mine.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. I mean, that is almost just the tagline for Heal to Heal. It is when we are able to share what we've gone through with somebody else, it lifts us up again. It's helping us as much as it's helping them, or sometimes even more. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the writing, for the speaking, for the inspiration. And absolutely, to our listeners, thank you for joining us. Go check out the book. Go check out the website. I've been on it. It's got a lot of wonderful resources. And for all of you today, just hear that we are all, in a sense, we're healed to heal. So come, receive your healing, and then carry that healing to the world. Heal to heal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Bye-bye.